Today's podcast is going to be a little bit different. I'm in an outdoor recording studio, and I want to take some Q&As from listeners. So I grabbed about 6 of the best I could find, and if you want to send a question in, it's Marc, M-A-R-C, at bitesizesecurity.show, B-Y-T-E, sizedsecurity.show. So I'm going to have my assistant read off each question, and then I'm going to attempt to answer it. So without further ado, let's go. What's question number 1?
Thank you, Marc. Here's our first question. What are the most effective ways for a beginner to gain practical experience in cybersecurity, especially if they don't have a formal IT background?
So the most effective ways for a beginner to gain practical experience, especially if they don't have any formal IT background, get that formal IT background. You don't have to have IT to get into cybersecurity. There's divisions and areas that you could go into if you're good at legal or document writing, technical writing, working with people like security awareness training. But if you don't have any formal IT background, it still would be helpful to get yourself something. And I'm not saying a help desk job, but it does help explain cybersecurity principles when you do have an IT background. Some of the best people I know in cybersecurity have extensive IT backgrounds. They could be from architecture to help desk to software development. It doesn't really matter, but they have an understanding of network and computers and technology, and then they can apply that easily to cybersecurity. It's hard to secure a network if you don't know what a network is. It doesn't mean that you have to go into help desk. But if you don't have that formal IT background, take some classes, take some courses. Look for volunteer opportunities in your local community where you can start to develop that. Not everything has to be a formal job. You could be working in a completely different industry and still figure out some different ways to get yourself some IT knowledge in order to get yourself into cybersecurity. Now, that sounds a lot easier said than done. I'll give you that. There's hundreds of people looking for cybersecurity jobs that do have extensive IT backgrounds. So, but it can be done. And if you do want to do that, I don't think you should give up. It was difficult enough for me to make a lateral transfer. I can imagine that if you don't have any IT experience, how difficult it would be. That being said, governance, risk, and compliance, GRC, which is not easy, but those people that I've worked with do not have extensive IT backgrounds at all. But they're very good at policy writing, policy reading, documentation, legal, putting together presentations. So if you have those type of skill sets, you don't necessarily have to have a formal IT background to get into a division of cybersecurity. So there's other options. You may not be a pen tester, but there's a lot of other things you can do in cybersecurity. If you're really good at educating people and you understand the culture of security awareness, you could develop training for a particular company. You could easily come in as a learning management developer into the cybersecurity area to help train your employees up on it, and you wouldn't have that, quote, formal IT background. Next question.
How important are certifications like CompTIA Security Plus or CISSP when applying for entry-level cybersecurity positions?
For entry level, CISSP should not be entry level. However, I do know that I've seen job descriptions that look to be entry level, and they want a ton of experience and years of experience, and they want a CSSP. That's ridiculous. That's just somebody who doesn't know how to write a job description, or they don't know what they're looking for, or they just want to hit everything under the sun. It doesn't really matter. They just want to grab anything they possibly can. So that's not good. But the CompTIA Security Plus, honestly, I know certificates get, hit or miss, yay or nay. People like them, they don't. That's exactly the one that I took. I did the CompTIA Security Plus out of the gate. It was hard, but I did have that IT background. I was able to study for it. Took a couple of months, pass it. And one of the nice things about it is on job applications, they're looking for particular certifications. And so you just kind of hit that right out of the gate. It just gets you past an applicant tracking system. And I think if you can do that, I think that is probably your best bet. As far as different certifications, I always preached on this podcast or my TikTok series, if you're going to go for certs, and they are not the end all be all, but if you're going to go for certifications for, different jobs, look at the job that you're applying for or jobs that you're applying for and see if you see a pattern, and then go for those certifications. So for me, I did see CompTIA Security Plus a lot. And I saw a lot of ISC squared on there as well. I went from CompTIA Security Plus, got my cybersecurity job, and then studied for the CSSP. And I really don't intend to get any more certifications. I just will keep getting continuing education credits for those and just leave it at that. But for entry level, if there is an entry level position, and there are some, although they're rare, take a look at what they're looking for and then go for those. But don't look for certifications that require 5 years of experience like the CSSP, because that makes absolutely no sense for it to be an entry-level position. So I don't know that I would put an importance level on them. I just wanted to check as many boxes as I could to get past the recruiter. That's basically it, right? I mean, if you've got 10 applicants that come in and this job requirement says nice to have Security Plus and you don't have it, do you really want to be number 11? Or would you rather just make that cut from whatever system is looking at, how much of a match is this person? That's all. But it's not the end all be all. Experience, how you handle yourself, your level of professionalism, what you can bring to the table, your attitude, all those things. How do you fit into the culture? Way more important than a certification. Hands down. Next question.
What soft skills are crucial for success in cybersecurity beyond technical knowledge?
Curiosity. I don't want to use the word self-starter. I would say someone who could take an idea and just be able to figure out a lot of that stuff out on their own. Meaning, you're going to do searching, you'll go into forums, you'll use AI, you'll chat with coworkers. You'll be able to take a particular problem and come up with your own solution. You're not someone who needs to be told every step of everything that you have to do, right? It's self-discovery. Cybersecurity is a lot of curiosity, self-discovery, doing things on your own, figuring things out. I know these are all buzzwords and keywords, but honestly, if there's a problem with the system and you're the person that needs to fix it, or you have to investigate some kind of suspicious potential threat, or, fix one of your CASB products, or, work on a browser or something, you've got to be able to take that from not very much information and follow that all the way through. So if you're someone who needs to be handheld and I want to know exactly everything I'm supposed to do, I want my boss to tell me everything, every step of the way, cybersecurity is going to be really difficult, because it's just, you think computer and technology is changing all the time. Cyber attacks and technology is changing all the time. 2 years ago, there wasn't really, phishing emails and all that was a joke. It's not so much of a joke anymore, because the landscape has changed. You've got AI, you've opened up really good English speaking abilities or any other language speaking abilities now to craft really great emails to, exfiltrate or infiltrate data and hack and all this kind of stuff. And the landscape changes. And so that soft skill, curiosity, self-discovery, ability to not know everything and rely on other, work with your coworkers on how to solve these problems is going to be huge. And that's a hard thing to teach. You can teach people technical skills. I've seen this on LinkedIn all the time. You can teach somebody technical skills, but it's really hard to teach people soft skills. That's more of a learning thing. How do I be a better listener? That's a lot harder to do than, hey, how do I become better at Python programming or something? So those are my soft skills.
How can I stand out in a cybersecurity job interview, particularly if I'm transitioning from a different career?
So I transitioned from IT, Windows, SharePoint world into cybersecurity. And I found it very difficult, because a lot of times initially on my resume, people would see that and they're like, oh, you're SharePoint. your windows. And it was difficult to get away from that perspective until I completely revamped my resume to focus more on the cybersecurity things that I did in my previous jobs. And I crafted my resume to be the person I wanted to be instead of the person that I was or had done, if that makes any sense. Right? If you want to be in cybersecurity and someone's looking at your resume, they're going to want to look at someone who has that particular skill set, as opposed to somebody who doesn't but just really wants to get in and they're passionate about it, right? You hear a lot of passion. But if you want to stand out in that job interview, what is it that you can bring to the table? If an employee has something that they need to fill a gap, you've got to be able to provide the technical skills, or at least showcase that you could learn, right? That you could learn this, and that you fit into the culture. And that one I hate the most, because I don't know what that means. How do you fit into the culture, right? You don't, gut instinct, you know if you're going to fit. Just be yourself. I mean, you hear that a lot, but honestly, if you go into a culture where you're not comfortable day one and you don't like it, you probably aren't going to last very long. So standing out for me was crafting my resume and highlighting the things that I'd done, sort of tooting my own horn and saying, hey, here's the things I've done in cybersecurity that I can help you, or that I've got the skill set that you need to be able to do this. And there are a lot of skills in your previous job that will transition into cybersecurity that you don't think will. For example, I did a lot of videos previously before when I transitioned careers. I did a lot of learning videos just on my own. Nobody asked me to do it. I used Camtasia, and I just made videos on SharePoint on how to do certain things, and it became really popular. And my point to that is how I transitioned that particular skill set into cybersecurity awareness training, because I was good at making videos, communicating with end users, drafting up emails and materials, and getting people on board with training, and that is something I'd be interested in doing at your company. And guess what? They had a need for that. And that's what I still do today, security awareness training. As far as I know, we're relatively secure, yay me. But my point is, you will have skills in your previous job that you don't think transition into cybersecurity, and they absolutely do. So you need to figure out, what is it that I've done that I think I can bring to the table that's going to make it something I can do for this company that relates to cybersecurity. You will have those skills. Do not discount those transitional skills that you have. Everything is not technical. Doesn't have to be.
What's the best way to network and build connections in the cybersecurity community as a newcomer?
Oh, I love this one. So the best way to network and build connections in the cybersecurity community as a newcomer. So I went to RSA, which is a huge local show here in the Bay Area. And I went to that for 2 years prior to actually getting into the industry, because you can basically get a free expo ticket if you have any vendor contacts, you know anybody, or you look online, whatever. And it's not very expensive even if you don't. And I just went to the show and I walked the floor. I spent 2 days walking around, talking with different vendors, getting into the industry, understanding the tools, what different products are out there, what people are doing, listening to the buzzwords and the vibe that was going on, taking every opportunity to attend any of the parties that these vendors would have, like, oh, we're having a happy hour at 5 if you meet us at such and such. And it was a networking event. A bunch of people. I didn't know anybody in the industry. I didn't know anybody at any of these events. I just went and got myself out there and attended this particular cybersecurity conference. And that was instrumental in getting me into the industry that I wasn't already in. And there are a ton of free or low-cost cybersecurity conferences that you can go to. And I'll link that in the show notes. There's actually a site that's very good. It's got all different countries and cities and genres of cybersecurity that you can sign up for alerts. And then it will tell you about different events that are happening, not just meetups and stuff, but actual conferences, or small, large, whatever. Some are free, some are not. And you should just attend those. That was a great way for me to build up a connection and get myself into the cybersecurity community when I didn't have any experience in it, when I didn't know anybody in it, and I wasn't currently working in the industry. I would say that is the best and biggest thing you can do. Get yourself into some cybersecurity conferences. Even if they're online, I know that's not going to be as good, but even if they're online, it's a good way to just start getting yourself in there. I just I just went to B-Sides Vegas, not 3 weeks ago, and my ticket for the 2-day event was $100. That is such a cheap conference ticket, and B-Sides is all over the world. It isn't just in Vegas. It's all over the place. They have conferences at different areas. You could look it up. But it's such a cheap ticket for what you get, and you're networking with people who are literally in the trenches working in the industry that may be able to hook you up or help you out with jobs or anything. I was standing in line and I listened to this girl talk about how she was, taking these courses and classes and doing all this stuff on the side. She really wanted to become a pen tester. And the person that she was just chatting with was like, hey, we're looking for people to do that. Drop me your contact information. I'll see what I can do. Maybe we can hook you up. Or if I know someone that, you're not going to get that elsewhere. That is the kind of stuff that you want to build connections as a newcomer when you're just talking with people. And it gets you out there and start talking about yourself and what you want to do with people that you don't know, which is uncomfortable for some. And that is huge. So attending cybersecurity conferences, and I'll link that in the show notes, is absolutely huge.
How should I handle rejection in my job search? And what can I learn from unsuccessful applications to improve my chances in the future?
I'd say I had about a 54% hit rate on stuff where I would hear something back from somebody. 50% ghost, like nothing. And then 50%, I'd hear back from something. I got really close to a lot of, I thought, opportunities and rejected. And I had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And it was really, took 84 tailored job applications. And this is 2018. 84 tailored job applications. I wasn't shotgunning it. And it was very difficult and painful 7 months to be able to land that first cybersecurity job. And I made my job looking for a job. I was applying or looking every single day. I never really took breaks. I didn't burn out, but you get really good at interviewing and you get really good at knowing what questions people are going to ask you, because eventually it's like an actor, right? You're learning your lines. At first you don't know your lines, you're really nervous, you fumble around, but after a while you hear the same, what's the difference between asymmetric and symmetric encryption, or how would you secure this network, or what order do firewalls rules go in, whatever. You're going to hear the same things over and over and over. And you'll just get better at that. And how to handle rejection, I never took it personally, and I never really followed up with interviewers or hiring managers, anybody. I would apply, I would interview, and I would go on to the next job. I didn't spend time sending gift baskets and flowers and thanking recruiters and having a bunch of conversations. I'd follow up if I didn't hear back from somebody, but it didn't really matter. And if I was rejected, I never asked the recruiter why, or they're never going to give you any good information for legal reasons, for a whole bunch of reasons. They won't really disclose any of that. And I don't really care. Maybe I wasn't a culture fit. Maybe they were hiring their brother-in-law. Who knows? Who cares? So I didn't handle rejection per se. I just moved on and went to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. I was a machine. That's my job, was looking for a job to get a job in the cybersecurity industry. That was it. Basically, in a nutshell, that was it. I didn't think about anything else, and it doesn't matter. I see a lot of that on LinkedIn. It's like, oh, what do I'll go on LinkedIn and complain about how sucky jobs are and how broken the industry is. Whatever. It's not going to change anything, and it doesn't help you. It's not to say venting doesn't help, but public venting is just waste of time. And you're not really going to learn anything from the recruiters. They're not going to be like, oh, if only you had more experience, or if only you had this, or you really should present yourself better. You're not going to say anything. Nobody wants to get sued. So you just, we went with a different candidate choice, the generic bullshit, whatever. And what if they said, oh, you're just not a culture fit? What are you going to do with that? How is that helpful to you? Oh, I'm not a culture fit? Come on. You don't need to really handle it. You just need to not take it personally and move on. And I think this job market is a lot harder than when I had. I thought mine was hard, but that's my perspective. But I think it's definitely harder now than it was before. So, Now, what can you learn from unsuccessful applications to improve your chances? I would always constantly tweak my resume. I wrote a book, Zero to Hired, and it's on Amazon. And I've got a podcast on it. It's called The Hire Drive. And one of the things that I did was I constantly looked at jobs on LinkedIn that I wanted to do, and maybe there's a bullet point that I missed that I had done that looked better. Like, oh yeah, I've done vulnerability management scanning with Nessus. Why didn't I include that on my resume? And then I would just take that from what they were looking for, and then I'd put that on my LinkedIn profile and my resume and use that. And eventually what you end up doing, I called it the save a job method, was I would save jobs I was interested in, and I was look at what they were looking for, and then I'd look at my resume and see if there was areas that I could improve. Could I improve the description? Could I add a keyword that I'd missed? Could I add a bullet point that I had done that I neglected to put on there? Could I drop something that I thought was important that apparently no one's looking for, and put something else? Or could I word it better so that the industry is looking for this particular set of keywords, but I'd use the different set of keywords? So I used their job descriptions to build up my resume for things that I had done. And then at the end of the month or whatever, I had a damn good looking resume, in my opinion, that are what people in the cybersecurity industry are looking for, of things that I had done, because they're looking for that. I had done that, and I was able to present it on a resume. And I did it in a way that I would have talking points. So it wasn't just a list of responsibilities, it was a list of accomplishments and things that I'd done, so I could have stories to tell, because storytelling is important. And that's why I think podcasting is successful, is because people like listening to content and stories. If I just rattled off these 6 questions and gave you real quick answers, it wouldn't be that entertaining. But I'm giving you information in a kind of a story format that's giving you that information. It's better. And so a resume, in a way, is like a calling card / story. Tell me about when you worked here. What did you do? It shows that you saved the company this much money and stuff. Can you tell me about that? It's much more interesting than I managed SharePoint. Okay, great. But, what else? So think of your resume as as a list of accomplishments and things that you had done. Your responsibilities are important, but a lot of people, they got ugly looking resumes, and that doesn't really, it might pass an applicant tracking system, but it doesn't make for something that someone is curious to talk to you about the things that you've done. You should toot your own horn, tell people what you've done and how you can help them out, that kind of thing. But, getting into cybersecurity is difficult. Not going to lie. It was hard for me, and I look out there in the landscape now, it looks nasty. So if there's anything that I want to do, it's try to help people avoid the mistakes or the pain that I did, and that's the purpose of this podcast and the videos that I do. And I think the industry needs a lot more qualified, passionate, good people. And I know there's a lot of people out there that could do these type of jobs.
Thank you, Marc. I hope the listeners will enjoy this episode. As a reminder, contact information and show notes will be available in this episode. Check your podcast app to view the notes for links to any resources mentioned. Stay safe and hope you join us again.